If you are like me, you have got a graveyard of supplements in a cupboard or underneath the sink in a box, like me, collecting dust. And when you put those, when you remember to put those supplements out on the table and have them with your breakfast in the morning, you're swallowing so many pills, right? Of different sizes and different stickinesses. It's gross. Well, my guest today is actually a friend of mine from university, Jennifer O'Connell, and with her two other female founder friends, they have launched an incredibly successful new supplement company called Sisterly. And they have a product called The Elevator, which is incredibly fabulous. It's available in Harrods and the Times, the Sunday Times magazines talking about it. And they've got people like Liz Earle and Sonia O'Sullivan all over it. It's got 23 essential nutrients for energy, immunity, hormonal balance, beauty, and sleep. And it replaces that disgusting graveyard of supplements that you have in your house. It also looks like a beauty box and you feel so good having it. So today, Jennifer comes on the show to tell us how she left being a fantastic barrister with a New York career and got together with two of her best friends to become a female founder of this incredibly successful new business and why it solves a pain point that no other supplement is solving out there right now. Jennifer O'Connell from Sisterly. How are you doing?
I'm great, Fiona. How are you?
I'm really well. I cannot believe we have not seen each other since fourth year, our last year in university in Dublin. And then another Jen, friend of mine, said to me recently, you have got to catch up with this brand in Ireland called Sisterly that is doing amazing things for women's health. And she said, actually, one of the founders was in Trinity about your age. And I was like, oh my God, I know her.
I love when things come together like that. I know.
Everyone always says, oh, well, you Irish, you all know each other. But it's kind of true.
We do kind of all know each other. Well, you're certainly going to be, it's going to be 1 degree of separation. You can
Yeah,
definitely get chatting to anybody and they'll have babysat for your cousin or something like
I
that.
know, isn't it funny? So what happened after we left Trinity? What did you end up doing? And then how did you end up setting up this incredible scaling startup in female supplement?
So I was doing, as you remember, I was doing law in Trinity and then went on and did the King's Inns and then headed to New York. And I worked
Oh,
as an attorney over in New York for a couple of years, where I met one of my co-founders, Louise. And she was in Colombia doing marketing. And then we were just having a ball during the Sex and the City years in New York. I mean, it was just so fun. And then left New York, came back to Dublin to work as a barrister. And there I worked for 22 years
oh my God.
at the Four Courts in Dublin.
What kind of law were you?
So all civil law. It's funny now that I have pivoted, the amount of people who are talking to me and saying, especially at that kind of 40 to 45 age, kind of like, this is the time. If I'm going to jump, now is the time. So I got to the level of senior counsel, which would be the equivalent of a KC in the UK. And then I'm talking to my older sister. She was saying, look, will you please talk to this other friend, Aoife Matthews, because she's constantly going on about this as well. And she was an investment banker. So Aoife and I got talking and we were kind of saying, okay, what problem would we solve for ourselves? And we're both really into sport and health and nutrition. And Aoife had just done a nutrition qualification and we were discussing supplements and it was during COVID and they were like, supplements are very complicated. And I was like, come on, Aoife, what kind of vitamin D should I be taking? And what's the dose and what's the correct form? And what do you need to pair it with? And, perimenopause was lurking around the corner. And I said to her, look, how do we solve this? I said, we should talk to this friend of mine in LA. She'd be amazing because LA is the forefront of wellness. And I said, it's this girl called Louise who I knew from my time living in New York. And Eva was like, I used to live with her in London.
No,
Yes.
no. Oh, that's just so
Typical
funny.
Irish women
Yeah.
coming up with what will we do here? Oh, we'll find people that we've all known or lived with or hung out with for long periods of time. So the three of us got together in that way. It was really organic and very natural. And there's a lovely trust space between us because there's years of friendship. And we then decided we were going to tackle supplementation and solve all the problems in that routine for ourselves. So I think we all struggled with remembering to take our supplements. We all struggled with taking, 6 to 8 pills a day, if you wanted to get all your essential nutrients
Yeah,
into
I
you.
hate that. I hate that.
No, Louise and I in particular just cannot stand pills. So that didn't seem like a good idea. And we were just trying to say, oh, can you focus on the female body specifically and design something better that actually works for us. We were kind of thinking, like, isn't it crazy? All these supplements are designed for an 18-year-old boy and a 48-year-old woman. This one size fits all supplement that sits on the shelf that's meant to do everything for everybody. We were like, that can't be right because we've come through so many different stages in our, physical development, hormonal cycle, between fertility issues and on it goes,
And
and then the next
perimenopause.
menopause starting, all these kind of things. We were like, it would be brilliant to be more female specific in an approach.
Can I just ask a question on that? When you were thinking about that, though, were you looking at, say, Vitabiotics woman range and thinking, okay, well, they already do that? Was it the fact that they only did pills?
Yeah, so we were kind of saying to ourselves, what we wanted was the best quality ingredients. So we knew that there's a big difference between synthetic and natural nutrients. And we didn't want, so synthetic nutrients are not as well recognized by the body when you ingest them. And the body can reject them, and they're just not as bioavailable as the term. It's absorbable, whereas natural nutrients are really easy for the body to absorb. So we knew that we wanted the best form of every nutrient. We knew that we wanted a dose that was a standalone dose of each of the nutrients that we wanted to include. So if you're, let's say, putting something in a capsule or a pill, there's only so much room. So if you're trying to do a multi-nutrient capsule or pill,
It would be
you're
massive.
really limited. Yeah, well, either, you're either looking at maybe 2, 4 pills, and they're really kind of, that's only a small amount of space. But if you were to replicate what we've done, you'd be talking about 8 pills. And taking 8 pills a day is just not a great idea. But also, you're going to compromise on the dose if you don't go into a powder. A powder is all the room you want.
So by changing the frame, by changing the format, you were able to, but without just blindly doing, well, we need to do a pill because that's what everyone does, you were able to actually change how you solve the problem.
The delivery method. I mean, just to kind of explain what this product that we've made. So it's this powder sachet supplement. So it's a little sachet you stick in your handbag. It's got 23 essential nutrients: your vitamin D, your vitamin C, magnesium, zinc. They're all in there, the things that you need every single day. So we decided we wanted the non-negotiable essentials. So they were the things that, there was just going to be no confusion over adaptogens or Chinese herbs or anything like that. These are the things that every GP would recognize, that there's been clinical trials to show efficacy if you take them every day. So there's everything you'd on the label you'd recognize. And that was quite a discipline, not to get pulled into areas where we knew there was kind of consumer interest, let's say, in NAD plus or other things. And we were like, no, this is going to be the foundation of good nutrition, things that are missing from your diet. And then if anybody wants to layer on other things, off you go.
But you have layered on specific things for women of our age, such as biotin. What else for our skin and our hair and our wellness?
Biotin is your B vitamins. So
Okay.
these nutrients are insane. When I call them the essentials and the fundamentals, that's not to say that what they do is extraordinary. So biotin is in there, and that's amazing for your hair, skin, and nails. Coenzyme Q10 is in there, and coenzyme Q10 is in every cell in your body. And CoQ10 turns your food into energy. So the best thing about, like, in terms of the reviews we receive, is your energy is just fired up from taking this. And that's because we surveyed all these hundreds of women and said, what do you want most from your supplement? And they were like, I want more energy.
So what makes that difference from, say, a Synatogen fizzy tablet or one of those things that you'd put in some water in the morning for some energy?
The dose. So the dose that's in here is really potent and high. So you will actually feel a difference. So let's say there's 150 mgs of coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is a really expensive nutrient. You don't see that in anything like, I don't want to call out any
Name
particular
names, of course.
brands. No, but that is really unusual. And it's because we knew we was going to push us into another price point if we were going to include that nutrient in there. But we really were like, if women are going to take this and they're going to invest in it, they need to feel different. They need to feel a tangible difference from taking this supplement. And that's why we put in a really optimum dose. So if you bought coenzyme Q10 in Whole Foods, for example, we picked up a jar of coenzyme Q10 in a lower dose to this, so 120 mgs, and that was £49 for 30 capsules. So it's a really, if you're putting that into your supplement, you're really thinking about it. And it's funny, like there are certain supplements that list coenzyme Q10 in a patented blend where they won't tell you the dose. If you have 150 mgs of coenzyme Q10 in your supplement, you are going to be shouting about it loud and proud. And the problem with a patented blend, which certain brands have, is that they don't tell you how much they've put in. They just put the name and they claim privacy over the dose. But we're so proud of the doses that we made a very strategic decision that we were going to list all the doses on our box. We're not like, because I want to know what I'm putting in my body. Every consumer should be told how much of a dose they are receiving of nutrients that they're putting in your body. Patented blends are actually not the right way to go at all. And there's a lot of pushback from consumers about them because, yes, they protect the company, but they're not good for the consumer. The consumer deserves to know.
I'm thrilled to introduce Brand Growth Hero's newest partner, Jolson. Jolson is a leading B Corp certified commercial law firm that specialises in guiding the founders of scaling CPG brands. With long-term relationships with clients like Little Moons, Trip, Eat Natural, Bear, Graze and Pulsin, Jolson is also famous for advising the Innocent founders in their landmark sale to Coca-Cola. And believe it or not, they still work with the Innocent founders at Jam Jar Investments today. I'm especially impressed by how Jolson sets founders up for long-term success and by their commitment to championing female founders. Recently, I asked one of Jolson's managing partners, Paul Chappie, a tough but crucial question. Should co-founders discuss, right from the start, what happens if one of them wants to leave the business?
Absolutely. I mean, with any joint venture, that's what a sort of co-founder relationship is. You've got to be very clear from the outset as to what each party is bringing to that business. Look at the skill sets, look at the time commitment. I often see founders coming where, one founder might have a full-time job. They're still getting the same amount of equity. And you can see immediately that there's an imbalance in that relationship that they either haven't looked at or are ignoring. And eventually that will come home to roost. So I think the key thing is to look at, what are we bringing? What is that future going to bring? What are the things that, if I have to go and look after kids or I have to emigrate somewhere, what's going to happen to this business? What happens to my equity? All those questions need to be thought through, discussed, and contractually you can then just draft those provisions into that contract and set that relationship on a firm footing.
Huge thanks to Brand Growth Heroes podcast sponsors, Jolson. Now let's get back to the show. Talk to me a little bit about the delivery in terms of packaging and format. The box, when you sent me some samples, and thank you so much, by the way, I had one this morning. I cheat a little bit. I put it in some orange juice. I love the tangerine flavour. I put it in some orange juice. And this morning I actually put it in a Lemsip cold and flu sachet and yours and the orange juice and some hot water. Not too hot though, because I didn't want to denature any of the vitamins. And that just felt like, oh God, I'm putting all of this goodness and all of this help for my throat at the moment. When I received it, it felt like I was getting a beauty box. Sisterly is the name of the brand. Let's talk about that in a minute. And it says the elevator, the smarter way to supplement. Talk to us about that proposition, the brand proposition, the name and how you developed, because it really feels like a beauty product, a ritual, the sachet, and they all line up perfectly. There's something about the way they all line up in that box. And it sits on my kitchen counter. And I feel that whole ritual piece, it feels really nice.
You're doing it right. So that's exactly what the purpose behind it was. We were thinking consistency is so hard with capsules and tablets. And the reason is you put all those jars out in your counter for a while and then they're ugly and they're cluttery. You pop them in the press, they're out of your eyesight. You forget to take them.
Cupboard for everyone who's not Irish.
It's a press. We call it a press, but it's a cupboard.
Anyway, you pop them in the cupboard.
You pop them in the cupboard and they disappear, never to be seen again.
Or do you know what I just did? About 6 months ago, I said, screw this, all the bloody jars on the counter. So I got like one of those bento boxes for kids and I dosed them all out to myself. And I thought, well, this isn't like a granny thing because it's not a pill box, it's a bento box. And then I fucking forgot about them. And then now they have all, because they are fairly natural ones, they've absorbed the moisture and then they've all bled this orange shit into the bento box. And I've had to throw the whole lot of them out.
There you go. We are here to solve that problem for you because
Okay.
it's such a shared issue. We called it like the graveyard of supplements, that
Oh,
cupboard
nice.
where all those supplements go to die. And, they go out of date. We all do a clear out about once a year because it gets so cluttered. Because let's face it, we're all going into our health food store, our pharmacy, picking things off the shelves, not really knowing what they're going to do, but like in the hope that they are going to help us.
You might spend 20 quid on something and think, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend 20 quid, even though the rest of my basket's only, everything's like 4 quid in it. I'm going to spend 20 and it's going to change my nails or change my hair. And then you take it for about 3 days and then you forget. Well, that's me anyway.
100%. That's the shared experience. And the other thing that happens is, so let's say somebody would tell me to get a B complex. I buy the jar of B complex. I'm like, I'm going to keep with this. I need more energy. But you take it for, 7 to 10 days, then you'd forget, then you wouldn't feel any different. And you'd blame the B complex and say, I'm not really sure about supplements because you didn't feel any different. So the consistency piece is so important with supplementation. Like it really is the beginning, middle, and end.
What we talk a lot about on the Brand Growth Heroes Mini MBA is about consumer behavior and about understanding how your consumer behaves in the category before you launch. And really, this is what you've done. You've gone in, you've understood what the pain points were, you've understood exactly where it's stored in the kitchen when it ends up being thrown out, and you're solving for those needs. It's not just about flavor, it's not just about functionality, it's also about usage. Because there's
Yeah.
so much value, category value, to be had for brands out there listening by understanding usage and pain points in usage, not just pain points in the actual product itself.
And I think that that really helped us because we are the consumers. So Aoife, Louise, and I don't have a white coat between us. And we would all be very conscious of the fact that we are not the people who formulated this supplement. We had a team of people that we brought together and we'll talk about that in due course. But what we do have is real consumer experience of what it's like to take a supplement and what stops us from taking a supplement every day. We also have the lived experience as busy women of, having a to-do list that never ends. And it was really a case of saying, we know supplementation is a really good idea. We find it really hard to do every day. So how can we simplify and sort that problem out for women? So what we did was we made the box in a very neutral, bland color so that it could fit into every kitchen. Every other supplement you look at on the shelves is shouting at you. And especially because this was a supplement for women. I mean, we spoke to an investor at one point and she was saying to us, I don't understand. It's like not bright pink and there's no flowers. Like, how are women going to know it's for them? And we were like, they'll know. Because we really felt, actually, let's solve the problem for women and have this on their countertop like your gorgeous cosmetics. So you sit there, you're proud of it, you look at it every day. It's not an eyesore. Great. It'll sit on the kitchen counter. Like Mel Robbins always tells us, if you want to introduce a new habit, have it in your eyesight. If you want to lose a habit, get rid of it.
I have one other box on my counter and it's Ancient and Brave collagen sachets beside
And we
yours.
love Ancient and Brave.
When did you start the business? When did you start selling once you'd decided what it was going to look like and what was inside the sachet and how you were going to deliver that sachet in a box, in a beautiful box, and the brand and all the rest of it? And I love the name Sisterly.
That was
When did you
Aoife.
launch? That was Aoife, was it? When
That
did
was
you
Aoife.
launch?
Such a good
What's
name.
your number one channel? Where are you who's buying you around the world and what's your revenue or turnover like and all of those things. Let's get into
So
that.
we were 3 years in development. It took us ages to get this kind of medical panel together. I think as a barrister, I had seen so many experts in court on either side of a case with a great CV saying completely opposite things and both being able to justify their positions. So we were like, okay, we need a consensus view from a team of people. So we have 4 world class experts who worked on this formulation for 3 years. Then we finally launched in 2003. We're very conscious that we did not choose the easy road by choosing a powder supplement. If you go with a pill or a capsule, you just stick it on the tongue, swallow it down, flavor's not an issue. If you're going to go the powder route, and you might wonder, like, why are there not more powders on the market? They are so difficult to develop. So what most manufacturers want you to do is just stick in a bit of sucralose to hide the flavor and to flavor it really heavily, to try and, because, these things don't taste amazing, but we worked with a particular formulator who had a specialization in powder And he actually, in fact, had done an unflavored multi-nutrient. And then we were able to work with him to create a really bland base. We thought we were going to market, I'd say, a year in, and it took a further 2 years to figure out how to make this clean, not with anything that was going to cause a blood sugar spike, no sucralose. And it was the manufacturers were we went through 4 different manufacturers before we arrived with one that believed in our vision of a really clean, potent supplement that was uncompromising in terms of quality. But we got there eventually, but it took forever. It was so painful. I mean, we had our experts trying all these different potions, and I mean, they were just going, this is disgusting. And sometimes Aoife and I would think we'd cracked it, and then we'd get Aoife back from LA or Louise back from LA, and she'd try it, and she was like, nobody's going to take this. So we were like, oh no, back to the drawing board. So working on the flavor piece was really tricky, and it does create a barrier for entry. I mean, to be honest, there's such a wide open space in female health. We feel the world is a very big space, and if other people will create products of the same quality as we have, that's a really good positive thing. It's not a cheap or easy thing to do, and it takes a huge amount of time. We invested massively in our expert panel and the amount of time it took to get us to a product that's winning awards all over the place. I mean, we don't enter the product into half the awards that we win. They just kind of arrive in, and we're just like, this is unbelievable.
Wow.
But the other piece that is phenomenal are these really well respected experts who are independent. They've skin in the game. Like, they're not going to reach out and approach us and offer support, but for the fact that they really do want to recommend these things recommend a good product to their clients. We get contacted day in, day out by doctors, female health experts, nutritional therapists saying this is a really good product. If you understand a label and you can look at the bottom of the box to the forms of the nutrients, people get very excited because the combination is excellent. The synergy of nutrients is brilliant. It's really covering a lot of bases. It's doing it in a really smart way. And when you read the ingredient list, there's not things in there that will make you go, oh, I prefer that wasn't there. Like, there's no hidden sucralose or anything like that. So all the really smart people are really liking this supplement. The people who know, the people with decades of experience and who have seen so many things come to market, they really like what we've done. And the packaging's beautiful, and that's great, but it's actually what's in the sachet. That's the only thing that's going to create longevity for us.
How is that translating, or how is that translated into sales and traction and growth?
So we launched in Brand Thomas in Ireland, which would be the equivalent of, let's say, Selfridges in the UK. And Brand Thomas have been amazingly supportive of us, and that has just continued to grow. Mars Pharmacy, again, a big pharmacy chain here in Ireland. And then, but mostly we're a D2C brand. So 80% of our sales are direct to consumer. So then we rolled out in the UK with a launch in Harrods, Whole Foods, and we're just about to launch in John Bell and Croydon, which is
Oh, I love John Bell and Croydon.
yeah,
Oh
John
my
Bell's so
God.
class. So we're launching there in October. It's a great discovery place, and I love their team. They're really supportive as well. They're fab. So, and again, then we're doing a kind of a lot of building our community, building our ambassadors. And again, like I suppose people probably we've these great actually athletes who all love Sisterly. So Sonia O'Sullivan, you'd know, Fee, from she's a national treasure here in Ireland.
Yes.
She's probably, we don't have that many Olympians, but she would sit at the top of the cake. She's just such an extraordinary woman.
And she's a working mum, right?
She's a mum, and her daughter Sophie is now running in the World Championships. She was there this weekend, but Sonia says it as it is, and really is. She couldn't but tell the truth. She's just made that way, and she came to us by following us on Instagram, and we sent her a message saying, "Hi, Sonia, would you like to try?" And left her alone, wondering what would she think, because it was very early doors with the brand. And then went back to her, and she was like, "This is brilliant." She travels all the time, and she's like, "I'm taking this every day. I feel great." So then she started speaking organically about us on podcasts and things like that, and that just really caused our sales to fly, because nobody had ever heard Sonia O'Sullivan actually talking about a brand, and she did that off her own bat. We didn't ask her, we weren't paying her, nothing. I mean, this is a very real relationship that has been built with Sonia O'Sullivan and now her daughter Sophie.
I recently had Kate Prince from Ancient and Brave on the show, and she talked exactly the same way about their relationship with Davina McCall. So Davina McCall discovered them and loved their product and started talking organically about it, and that
Exactly.
relationship has been built from there, over the years. And I think that's wonderful.
But you know what's fascinating about this? Okay, so I would have been on the outside of all of this prior to now, and we're all very cynical. We believe that this is all done through agents, and there's big fees and money changing hands, and people are only saying it because they're being paid to say something. And because I've seen that partnership between Ancient and Brave and Davina McCall, and it warms my heart to hear that that's how that came about. And it really is, that's how all of our relationships have developed. So Victoria Smurfett, who's in Rivals, again, we gifted her, she loved it. And then she's just like supported us in so many ways because she thinks it's fantastic. She hosted a lunch for us and brought along all these amazing women from Rivals and all the rest of it. And now the whole cast of Rivals are on it at the moment as they're filming their
No
second
way.
season. And it's just amazing. But like,
You actually look a bit like Victoria Smurfett. Do you know that?
do you know something? We'll end the podcast there now. That's the best compliment I am ever going to receive.
But it's true. But since I've known you years ago, when I saw Victoria Smurfett becoming an actress, I was like, God, she reminds me of someone. And I never really clicked until right now that it's you all those years ago that she reminded me of.
But no, but Victoria is she's Maud, obviously, in Rivals, and she's fabulous and fun and unfiltered and such a mighty supporter. And she jumps in on every Instagram post and she's just fantastic.
But let's tag her when this goes live. We'll tag her, okay, and get her to jump in on the Brand Growth Heroes Instagram feed.
The woman is just amazing. And I think that then again, and like we're only with Baby Brand, we're only out 2 years. But what I really hope when I look at Kate and, the Davina piece and Ancient and Brave's growth, I really hope that that's what is in store for us as it lands in the hands of more and more amazing women with stuff to do who are just of that supportive spirit. And they want to share with their friends and the people who follow them something that's really good. Do you know who else who's been absolutely amazing is Liz Earle.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Liz Earle's, again, like she was somebody when I was, the 3 years before we launched, walking on the beach with a girlfriend of mine from school, kind of going, I was asking her, who do you believe and who do you trust? And she was like, Liz Earle, I trust Liz Earle. She seems to really know what she's talking about. And it's almost like when you just plant a seed like that, then it's just like we're like sniffer dogs. Well, it's kind of like you just make sure it happens and you do all that. I do believe in that. Like you said, you plant a flag and you just kind of you just always are tweaking away. And eventually, Liz came to an event we hosted in London called the Sisterly. Not Liz, one of her team came to an event we hosted in London called the Sisterly Summit in the Arts Club, and we were all there as founders. And she heard us speaking, and then I think went back to Liz Earle HQ and said, actually, these people seem sensible and they're trying to do something good and their product seems to make sense. Because she's a real gatekeeper of trustworthiness. Like Liz Earle does not, you don't just get to rock up to Liz Earle and say, okay, put us on your podcast there, please. We'd like to just come on. And, she just would accept a fee and have anybody on. She's not like that at all. And we'd been knocking on that door for ages and getting nowhere. And suddenly the doors opened and we've done a number of lives with her now, and we're doing a podcast with her soon because she has her mum on it and she takes it with her traveling. And she did a lovely organic piece for us the other day from her holidays with her sisterly sachets as one of her favorite, travel.
It's unbelievable.
And when you have somebody like her, who's like the queen of good health and aging well and knows all about supplements, when she's bringing us on our holidays, like day made.
And I keep asking you this, and like all the best lawyers, you keep avoiding it. What does this mean in terms of growth, turnover, sales? Like, what can you share with us in terms of what size you are? Make us drool here.
And look at you. You're so funny. Like all good lawyers, keeping all the good information away. So we've got like over 3,000 subscribers.
Right.
So that's, they're on a monthly subscription. So that's, within 2 years, that's way ahead of our projections. And then obviously there's the whole retail piece on top of that again.
Give us a fork, for goodness sake, Jen. Like, are we talking, 500,000, 17 million? Like, what band are we in?
Well, so, the product retails at £79. So, like, with your 3,000 subscribers, you can kind of figure that out.
£79 for the box.
£79 for the box. And there's a
That you
really
sent
good
me.
reason. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Fiona. Glad you had a look to see what we'd sent you. There's a really good reason why it is that price. And when we were formulating this with Dr. Daniel Jones, we said to him, look, take price off the table. We really want to know, what does the list of the best nutrients look like? And if you didn't compromise, so an awful lot of brands and a lot of big companies would say, okay, the market can tolerate this price point because there's so many brands operating in that area, and that's the place we go to scale. What we decided to do was, there was lots of okay stuff on the market. There's a ton of stuff in the kind of the middle ground, and there's a lot of very badly made stuff on the market. So we said, okay, what would it look like if you made something that was the best it could be? And don't be governed by saying no to things because it has to fall within a particular price point. So we left Dr. Daniel Jones at it, and he always says it was the first time he was ever given carte blanche to make a supplement and just kind of put in it exactly what he wanted, in the dose that he wanted, in the form that he wanted. And I think probably because we're all quite good advocates, we felt that we could explain why the product was more expensive. And there is definitely, if you're taking one thing a day and it is going to make you feel better and get less sick and have more energy to go out and meet your friends and look after your kids and, just have a nicer quality of life. And do great things for your hair, skin, and nails, and all these other things. Well, then we felt that the women would be willing to invest, provided it wasn't a placebo, and provided they were going to feel tangibly better. So it's less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. So it works out at 2.90, and I mean, your cup of coffee is about £4. So I mean, it's a good, if you're willing to spend 2.90 on yourself a day to not end up with a cold or flu, to have the energy to go out for the night, to sort out your hormones, your cycle, and to, sort out your hair, skin, and nails, and improve your sleep. If you think that all of those benefits add up to 2.90 a day, we're the product for you. And we do understand that there are cheaper things out there, of course, and there should be a range of options for people to choose from. But all you have to do is read our reviews to see what you're getting for the money that you're spending.
What's really interesting about this from a kind of a category creation point of view is that you guys, are you the first really to market in the top end of the mass market where you're dragging the price of supplements up, or you're elevating the price of supplements up, and you're showing investors and people that it can be a much more valuable market to play in?
No, there was plenty of other brands who demonstrated that their price point was more than like fine for them. But what I think that we did do is we approach it. So none of those are kind of like a multi-nutrient like we are. So we are 23 essential nutrients. It's a really comprehensive formula. And it's all the non-negotiable essentials. And I think that what we did was we optimally dosed all of those. So we solved the problem of pills and capsules. We solved the problem of a really strong, disgusting flavored powder.
How has your law experience in law and everything you've looked at helped you to approach operational problems and all sorts of other problems in this business? Challenges, should we say? I know when I spoke to Olivia from Trip, her legal background has been hugely helpful, with things like regulations and, co-manufacturing agreements and all that kind of stuff. It just really helps.
Well, it had helped probably when we were coming up with the name Sisterly, because I was able to navigate the intellectual property websites to just, we went through so many names because I was able to just literally plug them in and search them and figure them out. So like, as we had a WhatsApp group with like thousands of names being fired out. So instead of waiting for another professional and incurring fees at a really early stage, trying to figure out, could we trademark any particular name, we were able to cut through that process really quickly. But the other thing that happened to us during the 3-year process of trying to sort out manufacturing, and Aoife was all over the manufacturing. Like, she's absolutely amazing. She's one of the most organized people you'd ever meet. And she was, on it. At one point, we had a manufacturing run done just before we were about to launch, and they made a mistake. They puffed air into the sachets and just ruined all these nutrients because there was moisture in the air that they puffed into the sachets to make them look pretty. So we suddenly, before we'd even launched, had this huge potential problem because we were being called on by the ingredient manufacturers to pay, but the packing company had messed up the packing of it, and a whole batch had been destroyed. So again, I suppose the legal training came in there because I was getting everybody on calls, recording what they were saying, feeding it back to them, how, their positions weren't logical because nobody was taking responsibility. So we probably managed to run a court case before, before it turned into a court case, and everybody in the end accepted responsibility and we didn't take the hit, which would have been a pretty devastating hit at that point in time. I mean, we were talking tens of thousands. So definitely it helped to have that kind of mind to pick people up on points that they had made in calls and in meetings, and to be able to say, guys, this is what it's going to look like when all this evidence comes out. So can we now just all approach this sensibly and find a resolution? So that was helpful. And then, as I mentioned previously, the experts, not accepting the word of one expert, ensuring that you get a consensus view, that definitely was as a result of just knowing from having seen so many cases run with really well respected experts on two sides of the case saying diametrically opposing things. So that process takes much longer. We had Dr. Mandy Leonhardt, Dr. Daniel Jones, Adrian Byrne, a nutritional therapist, and sports nutritionist, Susie Perry, a food scientist. And we were running through all of them with every decision to make sure that, and it gets finessed. Somebody would say, but have you also seen this paper? And maybe we want to think about this. And then somebody else would say, but hang on, that might do this. And it took forever to get to where we got to, but well worth the time and the investment, because now we can stand up absolutely confidently and advocate for what we have in that formulation, because we know that we have these incredible experts backing it up. And so let's say there was an issue recently around biotin. There was a lot of chatter on social media here in Ireland, scaremongering around biotin. And we were able to go back, and we have another amazing expert now, Reshma Patel, a dietitian. She's the dietitian in Harrods, and she's now joined our expert panel. So we're adding to it all the time. But we were able to go back to each of our experts and get them to agree on a statement of facts around biotin, sign off on it, and they all put their names beneath it to demonstrate this is the level of expertise that we have for the position that we are putting forward. And that again is my legal background going, no, 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 we don't leave any room for error here. There can't be any confusion about an area that's very confusing. So I do think that being a lawyer, and I would say any lawyer that comes into the supplement space, and I'd say that's why Ancient and Brave is as good as it is because as a lawyer, you've been hauled over the coals for 20 years about anything that is incorrect, inaccurate, and you don't operate in the area of gray. You have to be 100% confident that what you're saying is correct. And you bring that level of professionalism into, business. And it's really helpful because you keep pushing and driving until you get very reliable answers. And you keep pushing and driving until you can feel really confident that what you're saying and what you're doing is the right thing. And I think there's a lot of transferable skills that you bring into business when you've been trained in another area.
And your co-founder who was in marketing, tell me a little bit about her background and how she's been able to kind of lift the brand and the comms and the engagement as a result of that.
So Louise is based in LA, and Louise has therefore this kind of front row seat to all things wellness and brand. And Louise has a real magic around her. She kind of, dresses amazingly, has the best accessories. She's like a little magpie, and it was very collaborative when we were coming up on the box. Aoife was doing all the outreach with our graphic designer, and we were sitting down, and we all had kind of input into how we wanted it to look, and we picked our favorite brands and kind of brands that we really admired. So let's say the Apple iPhone. Louise had her Apple iPhone box out going, look, it has to look like this. And I think I picked the color of the paper, and it was really fun. We were all just kind of going, okay, what would be the kind of thing you'd want to leave out on your counter? And then we then kind of, in terms of the marketing, so we've been doing a lot of community marketing. So that again feeds into things that we love to do. So I'm a big triathlete. I love sea swimming, and Aoife is a great runner. And then Louise loves kind of dance. And we've been doing kind of community activations that kind of lean into our hobbies and the things that we love to do. So that actually has been again, not something that was conceived of around a boardroom table. It was more like we believe that the pillars of wellness are not just nutrition, it's movement, community, connection, learning about female health, getting experts to educate us about those gaps in our knowledge. So from that, we have set up like two sisterly summits in Dublin and London, and that was about bringing, like, we'd Rose Ferguson at our summit in London, and with Sonia O'Sullivan and Miriam Hussey, who's a pharmacist and health and nutrition coach. And we bring these women together, and they're all kind of corporate women, to kind of talk about how to elevate their everyday. And then, so we did Louise organised a Jane Shorthall dance event the other day. We had a sea swim at the 40-foot on Sunday, the 40-foot where they filmed Bad Sisters. We did a cycling event, a corporate cycling event. We've done, honest to God, we're out the door with events. I think we've 3 more this week.
How do you manage that and family life?
It's a struggle. I don't know that it is sustainable on the level that we're doing it at the moment. Like, we've been sprinting for 2 years, doing everything. But what we have managed to achieve from that is massive awareness here in Ireland. But Ireland, I think, is a bit of an unusual market. Like, we all just kind of talk to each other and tell each other what's going on. So we've got great awareness in Ireland. But also, I think we've managed to have great, I hope people feel they know us, and they kind of know what we show up to do, and they enjoy what we show up to do. And everybody who comes away from those events is like going, that was brilliant. So they're not just talking about our product, they're also saying, well, and they went to the trouble of, and we raised money for Women's Aid. In our first year, we raised £5,000 for Choose Love in the UK. So we really do we're always thinking about how can we make this the best it can be in terms of giving back. And I know, that's just who we are. That's how we like to do things. If people are going to be good enough to support our brand, we want to make sure that they're having a really good time, and that they're meeting like-minded women, and the whole thing's inclusive, and it's all very friendly and fun. But in terms of the UK, we do know that we kind of have to switch it up a bit. The market's just so massive geographically and everything else. So we still are doing kind of smaller events, because it gives us an opportunity actually to meet with experts and to build that kind of stable of people who then go on and advocate for us. So it's not just, the 30, 60, 70, 100 people who show up. It's also the opportunity to build that network of women who know us and want to support us, and new opportunities come out of each of those get-togethers and meetups. So, for example, we're doing a beautiful wellness morning next week with Adrian Adami. Adrian has the wellness podcast, and she spoke about us organically again. And now she's coming to do a kind of a breathwork morning with these mums from Marble College, and it'll be absolutely gorgeous. And, and it's that face-to-face time that then creates more opportunities. So it makes sense. We were told by another brand, Acton Acre, that this events piece was never going to work. It would stall. But for us at this stage in our growth, it's important. It's a heavy lift, but it's energizing for us. And also it is important to build out that kind of community and support us. Trini Woodall has been amazing. Trini, we were on her elevator pitch, and then we were at her alumni event, and her whole team are just dynamic and brilliant. And Trini is really supportive of female founders, and she gave us a great shout out in her newsletter. And, hopefully we'll be doing more there. So yeah, I think there's enough good people that we've met with at this point in time that we just need to keep doing what we're doing.
There's something really unique about this army of advocates that you are organically collecting. It's a bit like the Pied Piper. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I have rarely come across it. And I really like that you're recognizing that the events are not just about activating kind of engagement with consumers authentically, but that it's other experts that you meet as part of that. That's really rich. So to anyone out there listening, I think that's a huge takeaway, that those events are not just necessarily about meeting the right consumers, but also about meeting and engaging these army of experts around you who would also be advocates.
We're really conscious as well that not every event that we organise is a sales event. So let's say our sea swims down at the 40-foot, we don't even really, we don't push sales at all. We're there to swim, and we've partnered with a coffee company, Cocoa Brew, and they do amazing coffees and cakes. And the whole thing is getting in the Irish Sea requires a bit of support. So when you've got 30, 40, 50, 60 women down at the 40-foot all jumping in together, energy is high. But then they all go home and they're talking, I was at the Sisterly Sea Swim. I mean, people come to the Sea Swim now going, what is Sisterly again? What do you guys do? Just sea swims? And we're like, no, we actually also have a product. So, but it's really fun. Like it actually genuinely is really fun. And I mean, sometimes I think we're all exhausted, but in another way, you really do energize yourself from meeting new people and having the chats. And there is a common theme of people are like, God, I needed this today. I really needed to get out of the house. I'm wrecked. We do it on a Sunday as well because a Sunday is a really good day for mums and busy women. They'll give themselves that time on a Sunday. So we're learning all the time, and we're figuring things out as we go. But I think our North Star is, what would we want? I think that's the luck of being your own consumer. Like, what would we like to spend our time doing? How would we like it to go? We don't want to be pushed at like pushy salespeople, because we don't like pushy salespeople. And people will come to us.
Jennifer O'Connell of Sisterly, thank you so much for coming on Brand Growth Heroes today. It's been an absolute joy and really inspiring to hear how you guys are building this brand from the ground up, and wishing you the very best of luck. And hopefully you'll come back on in 18 months and tell us where you're at. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely massive.
Here's hoping. And listen, Fiona, thanks a million for having us on. It's been an absolute joy. It's great to reconnect.
Women are not small men. And when you focus on women specifically, you make a better product for women. I mean, how brilliant is that? I love it. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I hope you all learned loads, particularly about building a kind of a community grassroots movement. I love the fact that they rock up to do their cold water swimming in Dublin without necessarily selling anything. It's just about everybody being part of that swim together. If you liked this, if you got loads out of it, please click follow and like, share it with a fellow founder, share it with somebody who you think would like Sisterly Elevator in their life. Certainly, I've felt the difference. Thank you so much, and see you on the next episode.